I am fighting for my future. This is the attention-getting device that Severine Suzuki used as she aims at making the delegates in the conference aware of the fact that it is the future of the young children that is in danger as a result of environmental pollution. To date, it is amazing that measures have not been taken to conserve the environment, but instead the environment is more polluted than it was 100 years ago. Severine Suzuki's speech responds to the question of what happened to the world inhabitants when they degrade at an alarming rate. She uses rhetoric statements that are left to the listeners to interpret and understand. The objective is to give a proper analysis of a speech that was given by a young girl, Severine Suzuki, at the age of 12, yet it left the whole world silenced as they listened to her. I will evaluate the rhetorical situation in the speech. I will also show that if the world had not only listened but also followed the advice given by Suzuki, then the world would be a much better place and we would not have to worry about diseases or extinction of some animal due to environmental degradation. Those in attendance during the given speech in Rio de Janeiro included delegates of governments from all over the world, businessmen, politicians, reporters, and event organizers. It was viewed on televisions all over the world, and it was broadcast by radio stations everywhere. This speech moved everybody, and it was amazing how a 12-year-old girl could bring the whole world to listen and think critically about the same thing for the benefit of every human being, young or old. It brought out the effects of environmental degradation that go unnoticed because they are minor and the world leaders are too selfish and greedy to notice that the world is deteriorating every second. The occasion in which Suzuki gave her speech was the Earth Summit in 1992 that was held in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. The main purpose of the event was to establish ways in which the world could team up to save the environment for further degradation. The speaker, Severine Suzuki, gave one of the most famous and highly recognized speeches in the world. Suzuki was only 12 when she gave her speech, that later gained recognition, and she became known as the girl that silenced the world for 5 minutes. Excuse me. She had founded the environmental children's organization ECHO, a group that was dedicated to educating the children about various environmental issues. Together with members of her group, they raised money that enabled them to attend the Earth Summit in Rio, where she presented her speech. Given the fact that she was very young, it would be right to term Suzuki as a brave and courageous girl, who was determined at having her grievances heard, not only among her age mates, but also all over the world. In 1993, she was honored at the United Nations Environment Program Global 500 Roll of Honor. Her book, Tell the World, was published by Doubleday. It explained in just 32 pages simple steps that family could adopt to help save the environment in their own little ways. Suzuki attempts to explain to the world the effects of environmental pollution from a child's perspective and not the complicated statements that people cannot comprehend. She challenges those present to reason not as world leaders but as parents who would wish the children to live in a clean environment. She emphasizes that the future of many children is more important than the position the leaders hold. She summarized this by saying, "Losing my future is not like losing an election or a few points in the stock market." In a 5-minute speech, Suzuki was able to command the attention of not only the delegates present at the conference, but also of the entire world. She talked about how the children of today do not have the chance to see many animals as they have already become extinguished due to pollution. Such animals include dinosaurs, which have since become completely extinct, and the only proof of their existence is the bone structures found in many museums around the world. It is also not possible to enjoy sunbathing as the ozone layers had already been damaged, and the ultraviolet rays that reach the earth are too hot for our skins. She rhetorically asked those present, "Do you have to worry about these little things when you were my age? She also brings out the aspect of sharing by the rich to the poor. Suzuki brings out the case where she and her group Echo spent time with the street children from Brazil. She quotes the world of one children they spoke to, emphasizing the height of greed among the rich to further enrich themselves while the poor became poorer. The children told that, "I wish I was rich, and if I were, I would give all the street children food, clothes, medicine, shelter, love, and affection." Suzuki tries to symbolize, emphasizing the need to share and spread love to the rest of the world by the developed countries. She tries to explain to the leaders that instead of them spending money on countries fighting each other, that money could instead be spent on eradicating poverty and coming up with measures that could prevent the environmental degradation. The discussion had been about Serendu Suzuki's golden speech on environmental conservation. Her audience was much older than she, but she was able to make them listen and think critically about the issues that she so innocently explained. Using rhetorical statements and questions, Suzuki was able to give the leaders and those present something to think about as they tried to come up with strategies to save the environment. In closing, if we all take our time to critically analyze the speech further and take in-depth look at Suzuki's rhetorical statements, we will be able to understand the importance of conserving our environment. This generally means adopting better disposal methods, establishing industries where there are no people, and also learning the virtue of generosity and love. In the end, we will save our children the pain of having to ask questions about what happened to some animals and help eliminate poverty.